We'll do the things we love again. We'll hang out with friends. We'll put our screens away and be amazed by what's been waiting for us. We'll dance and eat and laugh again. We'll look in our own backyard and find that it is full of wonders. There will be adventures and art. We will stand in the sunshine and we will be free. Where will you go first?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fish East Live. I'm your host, Donald Patterson. We're here tonight for our fourth episode in our special series in conjunction with the Maritime Boating and Outdoor Digital Marketplace put on by Master Promotions. And, as always, we've got a great show lined up for you. A really special guest, a gentleman that I've got to know a little bit over the last year and, couldn't ask for a nicer guy to talk to. And well, it's not a bad thing that he cooks great food, and it's an even better thing that he loves to fish. So before we get to him, let's bring on my co-host, as always, coming to us from Kinsack down in Nova Scotia, Matt Zito.
Hey, Donny, how are you?
Good, Matt. How are you tonight?
Oh, fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
You're weathering the storm down there in Nova Scotia and dealing with all the not-so-niceties that you guys are dealing with right now?
Yeah, working our way through this lockdown here, but hope things turn around soon.
No, hopefully they do. I hope to get across the border, and I know we joked about it last weekend, and I might have teased you a little bit last week that we were going up striper fishing in the Miramichi, and you weren't going to get to join us. But in truth be told, I wish you could have been there. It was a great day, and would have been nice to have you there getting, and like I said, I'll admit it was my first Miramichi spring experience. So, it would have been cool to see you up there at the same time, but maybe next time.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been there, but I'll get there eventually. We'll get there. So lots of time left.
Now, Matt, I hope you're not too disappointed tonight. You are our resident, Fish East celebrity chef. But unfortunately tonight, you're not going to be the most famous chef on the screen.
I am okay with that. I'm looking forward to it. I want to learn some tips and tricks here.
You're hoping for some tricks. Well, I don't know how many tricks he'll give up. It is his living after all. But without further ado, folks, coming to us from St. John, or I'm guessing he's at his home. And if you don't know where that is, I'm not giving away the exact location, but from the St. John area, Food Network Canada celebrity chef, St. John Ale House owner, Mr. Jesse Vergen.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
How you doing, Jesse?
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Yes.
Well, I love talking about fishing, and I love talking about eating fish and cooking fish and everything to do with it. The only thing that would be better is if we were out fishing there right now. So.
Yeah. Well, we got some daylight left, Jesse. How about you and I, we're not that far apart. We'll just let Matt continue with the show. And
yeah.
Yeah. I can meet you in Norton in probably about, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's about how long it'll take me to get there. So, but no, I don't think we'll completely sink the ship and leave, abandon Matt tonight. But, Jesse, I can't thank you enough for joining us. It's, we met for the first time there last year when we came to St. John to do some filming, and we haven't released all of our fish and chip videos yet. So the same as when your former business partner and friend Pete Stoddard was on, we can't let the cat completely out of the bag yet. But let's just say, you guys you were our first stop, and you set the bar awful high for everyone else.
Well, that was just such a fun experience. Like seeing you guys come down through the falls, and it's a great. We're so lucky there to have such an amazing river system, like right over in front of the restaurant, right? So No, it was a good time.
It definitely was. It definitely was. Now, for anyone who's watching, if you've been to the St. John Ale House, we were talking about this off air just a little while ago, and I'm probably not going to get any more answer than what we did before. But anyone who's been to the ale house wants to know what's in those mashed potatoes.
Well, it's pretty simple. The only thing that we really add to it is butter and milk and salt. We keep it simple for a couple different reasons. One of them is so there's no variation with the cooks, that we can keep on consistency. And the other reason is food costs, because once you start adding, truffles and weird things into your mash, Parmesan cheese, your food cost goes out of control. So that's a big thing for us, is to kind of keep those things in line. And the trick is just, using really good potatoes. And we use Yukon Golds, and we cook them properly. There's an amazing French chef, or he's since passed away, called Joel Robichaud, and his whole claim to fame was that he had the best mashed potatoes. And you would go into his 3-star Michelin restaurant, and everybody would order the mashed potatoes, and they were $300 or something for this bowl of mashed potatoes. And they were simply butter, potatoes, milk, and salt. And it totally went back to the how they were prepared, right? So it's all in the technique, and you're just using the best possible ingredients.
Well, I think I'm going to have to work on my mashed potato blend, because I have used butter and milk and they've never turned out like those. So, but enough about potatoes, because, Matt, unfortunately, I don't think has had the opportunity. So he's sitting there scratching his head saying, how can potatoes be that special? But someday you get up, Matt, we'll take a trip into St. John, and I'll show you that potatoes can be that special.
Hey, listen, mashed potatoes is underrated. It's not always easy to make good mashed potatoes, to get them smooth and all that, but I got a few tricks up my sleeve too. Don't doubt my mashed potatoes.
Hey, you got me eating chain pickerel for the first time. So when it comes to food, I'm not doubting anything. So
I would eat your mashed potatoes off the back of your Dodge.
Off the back of the Dodge Ram, yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
Jesse, have you seen the famous fish tacos off the back of the Dodge?
Well, yeah, I seen a photo there online, and that's it right there. That picture right there could be in California, right? And they're down there chasing rooster fish or something. You know what I mean? In Baja,
Well,
just need a big scoop of mashed potatoes on the corner of that plate, and we're set.
As far as the shore lunch, as far as the shore lunch goes, that was hard to beat. There's no doubt about that. So, it might have been a little more elaborate, but we guess it was a high class shore lunch.
Yes.
So now Jesse,
highfalutin.
Exactly, yeah, highfalutin. We're not going to say what that was a warm day, but no, that was a great way to cap off the day. Jesse, I mean, you grew up, farming, very, very rural, I guess, lifestyle. So obviously your roots were there, but as an adult and someone who you spent a lot of time in big cities and, you've traveled around with your occupation and whatnot, what is it that keeps bringing you back? What is it that attracts you to fishing and the outdoor lifestyle?
Well, you know what I mean. You guys do it, you guys understand, and probably majority of the people that are watching this, you understand. It's it's a bit of tradition. It's a bit of it's a bit of something that's inside us as New Brunswickers, as Nova Scotians. We just I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's a part of us. And it's meditative for me to be out on the water. There's nothing more I've only been out fishing twice there this year, just because I've been so busy. And you know what I mean? It's and that's what I thought you guys were calling me for, was that we were going to hop out in the boat. But Yeah,
We'll set that up later in the year.
Yes, sir. I'm going to hold you to it. But like one of the times we were out, we got completely skunked, but it was a day on the water, and my buddy and we were like literally going down this river that I fished since I was probably about 3 years old, and we were hiking and like I'm over the rocks and like hitting all these little holes, chasing trout. That normally we'd like, oh yeah, I can remember like 10 years ago getting a trout in that hole and stuff like that, and those those memories and whatnot, and that whole feeling that you get when you're out there and you're doing it, and yeah, it just puts me in a place of ease, a place of peace. And with myself, I have like a lot of employees, a lot of different stresses in my life. It's go all the time. So, when I'm able to get out and, just be there pursuing, a species of fish, or, just the journey to get there too is, one of the things, be it like driving down the logging roads in your truck, to hit that hole, or that you're out and you got the hammer dropped on the boat and you're like rocking through the waves because you're trying to get to that cove in the lee of the wind. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but yeah.
To anyone who's experienced any of those things, it makes perfect sense. If there's someone watching who hasn't actually done those things, until they do it, they'll never understand.
Yeah.
It's definitely a way to decompress. It's definitely a way to decompress, and I think a lot of people do it for that reason. I know a lot of people that have told me that it's just to go and decompress, and kind of you don't think of anything else. At least that's how it goes for me. Just kind of. It's probably one of the few times I don't always have my phone in my hand either. It's just you forget everything. It's like you're focused on the fish and what's going on around you. So I totally relate to what you said there. Yeah.
No. Yeah. When you the last episode with my buddy, we were so far out in the friggin' woods that there was no cell phone service, and it was like the first time in in a month or something like that it was like, whoa, like I'm completely cut off, and I am loving this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. When you do find time in that schedule to get out on or near the water, what motivates you? Are you looking for your favorite fish to catch, or are you looking for your favorite fish to eat? Or are they the same fish?
I would say probably when I was younger, I was probably a little more apt to, like chase after things. I think we were having a little story there earlier about growing up and chasing pickerel, chain pickerel, and and we would like eat those like all the time. Being a chef now, I have like access if I want, the best quality seafood, I know where to get it. I know the fishermen, I know, the middlemen, I know the guys, I can get it shipped in from Japan if I wanted to. But, for me, it's more about the experience. It's like, okay, we're going after black salmon. Okay. We need the weighted line, and, do we got the right flies, and what's the gear, and what's the plan, and whatnot. So, I would say that I'm more in the camp now as I'm older. It's more about the experience and going after than actually, filling the ringer and filling the basket full of fish.
So
not to say that
No, well, okay. If you're going to bring something home, what's your first choice?
I definitely like probably one of the best table fare fish, I think, and we have an amazing fisheries here for it, is the striped bass. It's definitely been one of my favorites for years and years and years. Like I can remember like first time I actually cooked one. I was like in high school, and it was a schoolie that I caught in Means Cove. And like I still remember like cooking that and like having it stuffed with some citrus, cooked it whole on the barbecue, and tore a bunch of herbs from my mom's garden out back. And anyways, it was kind of, you know what I mean? Overcooked it, I'm quite sure. But yeah, it was just simply delicious. And then moving on down the road in my career as a chef, learning, you know, what to actually do with striped bass and realizing, whoa, hey, wait a second, this is like a very top quality fish. And yeah, that's kind of that'd be my number one pick for sure.
I think that's definitely ranked right up there for a lot of people, especially over the last few years as the striped bass fishery here in New Brunswick in particular has really rebounded and gained the popularity. I mean, the last 2 episodes of this show have been focused on the Striper Cup, and then last week we were doing, you know, some striper science. So, you know, you see posts all the time of people, you know, taking a couple stripers home for the table, and you know, it's definitely caught on, and so. Okay, there's our first viewer question.
You know what? I've never. Somebody's asking if I've ever caught or ate burbot. That is on my bucket list. I've never caught a burbot, nor have I ate the burbot.
So you've never eaten burbot. Well, I guess I'm not alone. So you know, maybe next winter we'll.
Yeah, get out there. It's pretty interesting because like burbot have been around in our river systems for ages, but there's never really, you know, growing up that wasn't something that, you know what I mean, people talked about fishing, and it's actually seemed to be like over the past maybe 5 years or 6 years, I start seeing on the forums and the, you know, the fishing buddies and stuff chatting and whatnot, and so it's kind of neat to kind of see that the guys are going after them, and they're sort of, you know what I mean, teaching themselves, or maybe they've always known, you know, how to pursue this species of fish.
Well, yeah. I think the last 12 months, we had Minister Mike Holland on here a few weeks ago, and he discussed the fact that the numbers of people fishing over the last year were definitely up. And I think if we can see a positive effect from COVID, is it's put more people outdoors because they're not allowed to have indoor gatherings. So people are looking at fishing and camping and outdoor recreational activities. So I don't want to paint this past year and the worldwide pandemic in a negative or in a positive light, but we have to take the good with the bad. And I'd say the good that's come from this is there's more people out. And this year, the burbot fishing, the number of burbot fishing pictures I saw was phenomenal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, if you sort of take it, like, I don't really understand the species completely, but someone sort of explained it to me that the texture is kind of like catfish. And so yeah, if you were to go down the road and you were like, hey, I'm catching some burbot, what do I do with it? I would sort of like, you know, hop on the Google and try to figure out, you know, some catfish recipes and pull them back into that.
Well, they call it the poor man's lobster. They actually
I've heard that as well. Yeah,
it's closer to the texture of lobster.
Well, that would probably be more akin to like a monkfish. I don't know if you guys know the monkfish.
Yep.
There's quite a bit down in Nova Scotia there. Angler, I think anglerfish is another name of them.
Yep.
Then you got that crazy maw of like teeth and stuff like that. And yeah, so yeah, if they're closer than that, then I would say you know, sort of utilize monkfish recipes for the burbot.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess my thing with burbot is I want to see someone catch one in open water. Why are they so elusive in open water?
Yeah,
they're still there somewhere. You know why?
Yeah,
why
well,
are people
there's you know, the same thing happened with the hake in the river behind my kind of cases. For years, people say, "Oh, well, you know, I mean, the hake fisheries has collapsed," and they would always say that there's no hake in the river anymore. there's a little bit of truth to that, but it wasn't that there was like no hake in the river. It's just that people thought, or where they used to go and fish them, sort of changed, and people just stopped pursuing them. So it wasn't up until the point that people were like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to go give that a go again and try to get out there." That all of a sudden, you see it on the fishing forums and groups and whatnot that everybody's probably a part of, and then all of a sudden people are holding up hake and like, "Oh, look at this," you know what I mean? Like the fisheries did sort of collapse. I think it was back in like the late 80s, but they were talking about like off the coast of Yarmouth and out in the ocean where the fisheries was sort of collapsed. But we still had hake coming in here. It's just people weren't out there. And there's the thing of it is the hake don't leave. It's not like a migratory fisheries that all of a sudden the ice is gone and then the hake disappear. The hake are still there. Nobody pursues them out there in a boat or anything to actually go and catch them.
Right. See, and I think, and I mean, Matt, maybe you're the same way down in Nova Scotia. I think it would be interesting to see the types of, we'll call it seasonal fisheries that people pursue now, whether it's ice fishing, and then find bodies of water and try to get those winter fish in the summer. What's it going to take to track them down? How do you find them? How do you catch them? And, I think that would be a load of fun. You may spend days on the water getting skunked, but when you figure it out, it's going to be one of the most satisfying things you've ever done.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times, like fish behave differently in different times of the year. In the winter, maybe that's their winter grounds, and maybe they move a little bit. And there's lots of other factors too, like bodies of water change all the time. I don't know if that part of the river that they're in is moving water, but moving water changes the bottom, and if it changes something they don't like, then they're going to move off somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's just it. So. Okay, so we've established that you haven't caught burbot, and I'm going to talk Atlantic Canada only, because if I go worldwide, the list is probably longer than both your arms. Bucket list fish that you haven't caught yet.
Here in Atlantic Canada?
I'm Atlantic Canada only.
I would say, and I thought I seen somebody post this there the other day, was an Arctic char. And I don't know exactly where, but I'm pretty sure it was in the Maritimes here somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
it's really...
are they out there? Yes.
Yeah, he caught that fairly close to where I'm at. So, if you want to know where he caught it, I'll let you know.
Okay, but that right there would be... a big one for me. I'd like to probably get out like after some of those big togues, those big deep lake trout that are out there. I have a lake there. I kind of have, in the scope that I know holds some. It's pretty hard to get into, and my uncle's been fishing there the last couple of years. He kind of made a way to get into the lake and hauled a boat up and sort of did all the leg work there. So I'm hoping that I can sort of ride on his coattails and go in there after them. And supposedly they're getting pretty big, like 5-6 pounds, something like that.
Okay, I got to stop you on that one. Is this a lake in southern New Brunswick?
Possibly.
Oh, wow.
Just to put it into perspective, there's probably 100 other lakes around that area.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not saying lake trout in southern New Brunswick. I mean, if you wanna work out, I'm sure we can work something out. We can take a trip up to Long Lake. That was my first lake trout fishing excursion last year. We went up there and I got hooked into about a 14 pounder. And
nice.
The only thing is it's self-sustaining. You go up, you stay in a cabin, and someone's got to cook. So I don't want to necessarily say who'd get earmarked to cook, but we'll arrange the trip as long as we know we've got the right cook on board.
That's I can make sure I can cook a 12-pound trout. Let me tell you, I do magical things to it.
If there's mashed potatoes, I'll be there.
Yes. Yeah, just some other things I'd like to catch probably like a large striper on a big fly rod, like 10 weight or something like that, 12 to 12 weight, like something big. That's kind of like when I first started fishing stripers. I was going after schoolies with a trout rod, and I had an absolute blast for it. And I've been lucky enough to catch like a few bigger stripers on bait casters and whatnot. But to do it on a fly rod would be pretty sick.
You're talking to that gentleman that's joining us from Nova Scotia is kind of the fly rod master for big stripers. I don't know if we have any pictures loaded up of some of his muddy water Nova Scotia stripers, but Matt, why don't you kind of field that conversation a little bit, because I definitely can't.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, in my opinion, the best way to catch them. And you're right, 10 weight, absolutely. You can get away with an 8 weight, but you really want a 10. I recommend like a 9 at minimum, but I'm sure you could get in them in the Miramichi. I know that your fish down, or I should say up there, don't get quite as large as some of the ones in the Stewiacke. Like, if we go to the Stewiacke, there's one of them. That one I think was 38 inches, I believe. But it's not uncommon to get a 40-incher or a couple 40-inchers in the run of a day when they're heavy in the Stewiacke or Shubenacadie. But yeah, big. Some people, I've had luck on big flies, mostly small flies. The smaller, like closers, like a 1/0, 2/0 closer, is a pretty good sinking lines, or intermediate sink, I should say. But yeah, I can't see why you couldn't catch them in the Miramichi. I'm sure you could. I especially when they get pretty heavy in there. I know that people say they get really heavy in there.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to say that's my fly there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I can tell that's my fly because it's not good. It's not a good tide fly. It's pretty, but they're not very picky most days, so I luck out.
Yeah, we're lucky because we have the St. John and the canopy cases with the seasonal, and the stripers move in and out there too. So one of the things, it was last year, and I was coming back on one of the boats, and and just seeing them feeding. It was like a calm night out in the St. John River, and you get to see them like crushing bait fish, and it was like this whole and they were like, and the bait fish were like freaking out, and I was like, to be able to get on to something like that, and cast it into that and trying to, that would be a pretty big bucket list fishing adventure there for myself there, for sure. If you figure a way to hook onto one of those large Atlantic sturgeon, not the small like the big breeders that are come up, and I'm buddies with Cornell Sipa. They're the King of Caviar sturgeon man extraordinaire. And he swears that they will not feed when they're coming up to breed, but like these are the fish that are like 6 to 8 feet long, right? Like it's like Fraser Valley River type sturgeon action. That would be an interesting thing.
We've got some big Atlantics. There's no doubt about it. I've heard reports of them as big as 8 feet.
Oh yeah. I see them all the time. And the fisheries this year that they're pulling up, like I know a lot of the fishermen that are out there doing it, and I'm seeing their posts, and like, they're pulling them out as a bycatch now, off the Gaspereau and the shad nets. And they're like, it's ridiculous. And I'm on the water all summer. I've never seen so many sturgeon jumping in my life over the past few years. And I've almost hit them in the boat like a few times. And that's when you see a 4 to 6 foot sturgeon come out of the water, and it's like 10 foot off your bow, and you're like, holy crap. Like, that's an experience.
Actually had a friend in a tournament, it'd be a few years, probably 4 or 5 years ago now. Had one clip his trolling motor and land right in front of his driver's console at 60 mile an hour. It breached straight up, and he, it hit the skeg on his trolling motor and flopped onto his front deck right in front of his console. Remind me sometime, Jesse, I still have the pictures of it. I just don't have them loaded up to put up on the screen tonight. But it was, if memory serves me serves me right, it was about a 5 foot sturgeon. And, hitting that at 60 miles an hour, you might as well be hitting a log.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
but that's what's been told to me, is that they don't feed, or the really large ones don't feed. And I don't know if that stops at starts at 6 feet and goes to 9 feet or whatever it is. But like, there's some huge sturgeon in that river.
Oh, without a doubt. So
what's the regulation on them up there? Can you keep one, or what they catch and release?
It's a certain size. I'm pretty sure there's a sizing. And you can. Majority of people don't. It's quite a fish to process. You need the Atlantics or the short nose. The short nose have a little more like plates on them or whatnot. But I had a sous chef one time. We had one of the fishermen bring one in, and it was actually the birth of one of my sons. And I had to run out of the restaurant, and the sturgeon showed up. So my sous chef at the time was like, I'm gonna show chef, like, he's, but they're having a baby and stuff like that. I'm gonna process this fish. And anyways, he got at it with a bone and knife and trying to get through, and it's like, just didn't really know what he was doing. Anyways, he ended up at the hospital there, and I was downstairs and going to get a coffee or something like that. I run into him, and I'm like, "What are you doing here? I thought you were running the restaurant." And he's like, holds up his hand, and he had the boning knife right through his hand. It's a little they're a little more intimidating for people to process. So that's why you see a lot of catch release with them. It's but like flavor wise, like sturgeon is amazing. It's the quality of the flesh. It has a high fat content in it. It lends itself to like curing and smoking. You can literally braise it because it's like meaty enough. Like my buddy Cornell Sipa, like, he utilizes the whole damn fish. Like, he uses the skin, like he's tanning the skin. He's sending off like gonads and like weird pieces of the swim bladder and stuff to like pharmaceutical companies, and actually taking the tripe or the stomach out of it, and he does the dish with a Romanian dish that would traditionally be with like cow tripe, which is like the stomach lining, but does it with sturgeon, and it's absolutely amazing. Like that's a pretty cool thing. Eating fish guts.
Eating fish guts. That's not something you hear every day.
No.
But you know what? It's something that's pretty hot in the chef community there now. That's what all the hot young chefs are doing there, is trying to utilize the whole fish and do crazy things, to the fish, be it like dry aging or fermenting, taking the guts and putting them in a jar and, chopping them up and letting them ferment for months, and then like straining it all off, and you're tossing it on things. Literally, that's what fish sauce is, right? So if you go to a Thai restaurant and you get that fish sauce, whatever flavor, So there's like a whole movement of young chefs that are doing pretty cool stuff with fish right now.
I'll stick to fish tacos. I'll stick to fish tacos. I mean, okay. I made broth out of the bones of a striper last year, and I thought I was going all out. These guys are fermenting fish guts for months. Okay, they win. Tap out. I'm good. Broth is as far as I'll go.
Oh, so since we're talking recipe, go ahead, Jesse.
Oh no, I was just going to say another big thing is like aging fish, which you know what I mean. It's kind of counterproductive to what we think of, of fresh fish and what we want to do. But we have these like preconceived notions of how we're supposed to process fish and eat fish and whatnot. But you know, the reality of it is that eating super fresh fish, you know, what I mean, as cool of an experience that is. Your fish that's is going to taste so much better if it's allowed a day or two to relax and let the proteins kind of like drop in it, and if you actually have it butchered up and you're kind of letting some air or the refrigerator kind of evaporate some of the moisture in that fish will actually create a better product.
It's funny you said that because last year I got a striped bass and I got back late at night, so all I did was just dressed it, and I was busy the next 2 days, so I knew I wasn't going to get to clean it and cook it and all that. So I have a fridge cleared out that I use for deer hunting. I'll quarter my deer up and hang it in there. So the fish was too big and I didn't have time to cut it out, so I was like, I'll put it in the deer fridge, and then the wife won't be mad at me for throwing this big fish in the fridge. And so I put it in there and hung it or whatever. And I came back, I think it was 3 days it hung in there. And when I took it out, it was like, it was weird. It got all its color back and the meat was so clean, like all the blood dripped out. And that was probably the best striper I've ever eaten. So I think, and meat, I guess that would make sense with everything just relaxing. But I was astonished when I took it out of the fridge. I was like, wow, like it's so clean. And I cut it and there, like all the blood dripped out. There was no blood left in it. It was really good. I said to myself, if I get another one, next year, well, this year, if I can get there, that I'll do the same thing. Try it again.
Yeah, there's and also I'll send you a little link there on a cookbook there that's been put out there on fish butchery, and it's literally they're doing that exact process there now. And we've always seen it with like dry aged meats. You go to like super high end steakhouses and they have these like meat lockers, and you're like, whoa, look at all this beef. They're doing the same thing with fish because it's very noticeable exactly how you were talking about. And you know what I mean? To be able to do that, the whole fish there too, having it is like it's just going to bring the level of flavor up and quality.
I wish we had this conversation last week, because I just brought home my first 2 stripers ever on Sunday and processed them as soon as I got home. Which is like how we were kind of taught, right? Like, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, you can process it real fast, and it's that illusion of freshness there too. Like we were talking before this kicked off about sushi. The illusion of sushi being fresh now is kind of like over with, and people realize that no, sushi is actually frozen for 72 hours and allowed to thaw slowly in a fridge, and that makes it a little safer. Make sure that if there was a parasite in it, it would have been killed. Not that fish parasites can infect, humans anyways, but, just for the squirm factor. Yeah. So, the parasites tend to be a little unappetizing to most people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now, Jesse, since we're talking about different fish and different ways to cook them and stuff, we touched on, Matt's famous chain pickerel tacos, and you talked about growing up with chasing pickerel. And so if you're out this is kind of a 2-part question. If you're out targeting pickerel, what's your favorite way to catch them? And then what's your favorite way to cook them?
Favorite way to catch pickerel now? is definitely fly rod. I like to use like a 6-weight fly rod, just big, ugly, Mickey fins, like, just just you don't need a lot, or something like I'll even use salmon flies, bucktails, stuff like that. That'll just kind of like skid across the water, try to get some top water action there with them. The trick is having one of those like super fine leaders that I find hard to locate at the local places, because every time I go in, I'm like, oh, okay, where are those super fine leaders? But they seem to be gone. I don't know. So if anybody sees any out there, I'm looking for some. The fly. I think fly rod for the chain pickle is probably one of my favorite things. And cooking them up. It's been years since I've actually cooked up a chain pickerel, just simple. One of the things, and actually I was thinking about this, is that in Europe, northern pike are a very common, table fare, restaurant fare in high-end restaurants, and the two species are very similar. One of the traditional ways to cook a northern pike is a canal, and a canal is pretty much like almost like a force or a mousseline or mousse or force meat. That is like literally you're taking the meat, you're grinding it, and then you're whipping in egg whites and a bit of cream, so it creates this light foamy consistency, and then you poach that and then serve it with traditionally in Germany they would have like pike canals with langoustine sauce or crayfish sauce. So I was thinking of that there the other day of actually like making a pickerel canal and serving it with like a lobster sauce or a rock crab sauce to sort of have that like reflection there.
Yeah,
but
that's interesting. I grind mine up too.
Yes, sir.
The smaller fish. Yep, the smaller ones. Because I how to the Y bones and all that. It gets pretty hairy when they get smaller, like under 18 inches. So I was at an ice fishing tournament once, and a guy told me, he's like, "Oh, I grind them up and make fish cakes." And I thought, "Oh, I have a grinder. Why haven't I ever tried that?" So I just put a couple raw shrimp in with the fillets. I just take the skin off, and I take the rib cage bone out, but I leave the Y bones, and I double grind it. I'll grind it through twice and gets rid of all the bones, and then you just got to grind. You can do whatever. Like I've made wontons and like dumplings, like crab cakes, fish cakes, anything you could do with a grind. But I'm interested in that technique there. I've never heard of it, like poach. I've never heard of it before. I have to look it up.
It's like super old. I think it goes back to like medieval ages. It was a way for them to like you say, process the whole fish and chop it up and be able to utilize it all. And it's something that our Western society, we're kind of coming to grips with, is our, like a lot of times we just want a big fillet of something, and we don't want any bones, or we don't want skin on it, or don't cook it whole because it's got eyes and a head, But the reality is everybody in the world, the majority of the world, doesn't live like that. And it's a lot more sustainable if you're taking a great natural resource like fish in our rivers and oceans, and trying to utilize the whole thing instead of like throwing 60% of it out. And like bones in fish that you are able to digest are probably one of the best sources of calcium that you can get. It's easily digestible, goes right into your body, and minerals, trace minerals and whatnot. It's definitely that's awesome to hear. And I would I'm definitely going to try those grinded pickerel, and I will definitely be putting up a chain pickerel canal on my Instagram.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. I'll send you the.
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's so I guess I think I saw another viewer comment pop up. Another question. There it is. What's the best fish, New Brunswick fish to do ceviche? If I pronounced that right.
Oh, Peter Stoddard, hello. I would definitely go back to the like if we're talking like sort of freshwater brackish, the sea bass is like you can like literally look up sea bass ceviche on Google and it'll lay probably 100 recipes. I guess for other types of fish. Are we talking like ocean fish or just in water? I would recommend like using like if you're going to go down the road of like utilizing like perch or something like that, white perch, yellow perch, is to give it that freeze and like cut your fillets, give it the freeze, treat it like you were going to treat doing a crudo or sushi, and then yeah, let it defrost slowly. Then mix your leche de tiger, marinade or citrus juices or whatnot. But probably some of the best feedback that I've had on ceviche with the local fish that I've made is sturgeon. And sturgeon really lends itself because it's kind of meaty. It has that real like that chew, that bite to it or whatnot. So yeah, sturgeon definitely a go-to for ceviche there for using river fish. But I mean, like outside of that, halibut, flounder, all the different species out in the Bay of Fundy there, or up in the North Shore. You can have a lot of different varieties of ceviche.
So no shortage of options is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there, get some acid on that fish, and eat her up fresh.
Okay, so when we're talking about options, Jesse, I mean, I know obviously in the restaurant there's certain regulations that stop you from using wild caught, wild hunted meat and fish for table fare in a restaurant. But for you as a chef, there's got to be things that you do personally as far as fishing goes that really inspire you, and you can take some of that inspiration just with the fish coming from a different source back to the restaurant. Is there something that you've done, a fishing experience in New Brunswick, that's really inspired you from that personal level that you've elevated it to a professional level?
Let me think. I just one of the things kind of like hopped off the thing. I guess not really fish, more of a shellfish was sort of the story on periwinkles and us putting periwinkles on the menu. Picking periwinkles when we were kids off the rocks or whatnot, and then we'd like go down and you boil a big pot of like ocean water and boil up some periwinkles and eat them. And it was something that I really wanted to bring back to the restaurant, and I wanted that experience in the restaurant. And it was a process for us to get there, because we brought it back, and people were kind of like, "Oh, you know what I mean? Like what the like periwinkles? Oh, I can remember having those as a kid." And it took a little bit to like catch on, and we'd like have some periwinkles in. We're like, "Oh, sometimes it'd sell, sometimes they wouldn't." But then after a while, people sort of caught on, and and then it kind of went from there. Another example, a dish that I put on the menu for quite a few years in a row, and loved it and thought it was like the most awesome thing, was we do pan roasted shad and fiddleheads. And I'm like, you're like, what is more New Brunswick than shad and fiddleheads? And I think one year we were doing like that, and we do like a little crispy piece of shad roe on it and stuff like that. It was kind of a hard sell, even though a lot of people in New Brunswick would have grown up and eating shad and fiddleheads or Gaspereau and fiddleheads. But it was it was something that was just sort of traditional, and a nice sustainable fisheries. There's lots of shad in the river, and and they're fun to catch there when you can hook onto them with some little golden bead. nymphs.
I've never had shad. I've never had shad before. I know they're bony. I know they're really bony. Like, how do you prepare them?
Well, that's was one of our issues with the shad, was that we had to, like, I think the second year that we had it on, we had to call it bony shad, because the bones were in there. My research into it was, like the knife cuts and everything that you have to do to get into it is like pretty crazy. And you should just throw the knife out and literally get a scalpel to try to like pick it out. And then what we tried there one time was, after you shred the whole fillet of shad, trying to get the bones out and it looks like crap, was that we reformed it with an Angimoto monosodium. And it's sort of what it did was it binds the protein strands together, and this transglutamase will literally reform protein. So then you try to like reform it and whatnot, but kind of chefy kind of stuff that I thought was like super interesting and reflected our culture and the river, and it was sustainable and it was foraged, and this is a wild fish from the river that we're serving in the restaurant, which we're allowed to do. But just the time processes behind it, and like the labor cost, and just trying to convince the servers to explain to the guests what it is and whatnot was. And then there was probably a lot of horror stories of like people growing up and their parents made them eat shad and fiddleheads, and it was done horribly, and they had nightmares about it.
Shad seems to be one of those love it or hate it type situations. People are like, last spring when the shad were running, we got a bunch of guys together, went out back, had an absolute great day on the water. I took one fish. My mother absolutely loves them. My brother has become a fan of them. Nobody else that I know wants anything to do with them.
Well, they're definitely they have that fat content, that they're an oily fish. So some of those fish there too, like that, you do need to process a little faster, because you can get that off flavor, and or the flavor can intensify. So yeah, like I've heard everything over the years. Old timers telling me like, well, the trick is you got to cook it in the oven for 3.5 hours. Real slow, and then pull by the tail, and all the bones will pull out. But you are right. It is a difficult fish, and we have a lot of like really cool fish around here that we can use in the restaurants, like Gasparo, which we'll put on and we'll actually pickle them, kind of like the Nova Scotia Solomon Gundy.
Yep.
Which is I think it's awesome. Eels, like we got the American eel here, which is a very it's something that people don't think about eating here, but it's absolutely delicious. And we have vibrant, sustainable fisheries here for eel, and it's all shipped away. It's shipped to Japan, and then it's like processed, and they put it in the little sushi packs, and then it's sold to the sushi restaurants that you probably go and get your dragon roll or whatever.
Yeah.
But
you're not supposed to tell people that, because sushi sales just went down overnight thanks to that comment.
Well, I don't know sushi restaurant, so that's fine by me.
Oh, I got a couple other quick questions for you, Jesse and Matt. I mean, don't be shy. I mean, I know this is kind of a New Brunswick centric conversation, but your experiences in Nova Scotia aren't that much different. If you were going out for a shore, I guess, how do people elevate their shore lunch if they're out cooking? Doing a catch and cook on the side of the beach. Dock the boat, or they're fishing from the bank and they've caught a few fresh fish. What little tricks can they do? Something they can throw in their backpack or in their cooler to really take that from a couple trout in a frying pan to something a little more special for them?
Well, it's about planning it out. Thinking ahead. In the culinary industry, we have a term called mise en place. Pretty much, it's get your stuff in place. So it's about giving it the forethought. It's about sort of thinking down through your recipe. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm out with my buddy and my wife and his wife, and we're going to kind of create this little this little experience. All of a sudden you're like, okay, well, maybe I should have, some beverages for the ladies instead of just what me and my buddy want to drink. And, what's in this recipe? What are the different cooking techniques that I'm going to utilize? Mise en place and having that like forethought into planning what you're going to bring, what you need, and will save you a lot then from just kind of haphazardly throwing some things together. If you do a lot of outdoor dining, like you should have a little kit, and that's your outdoor eating kit there. And I'm pretty sure Matt's got one there. You know what I mean? You can just grab, throw it in your truck, and it's got some base things in it. It's always you're out there and you brought a few things, but you forgot the salt, right? And you're like, oh, geez, that little bit of seasoning there with the salt, it can take your those trout that you're frying on the side of the river from tasting like trout and pancake batter to something that's like deadly, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I think that's a good tip to have a little kit. What I used to do and what I still do sometimes is just it's been a few years now, but what I used to do is just fold up some tin foil in my bag, and then in a Ziploc bag I'd have like butter, dill, some sliced onion, and garlic powder. And then if you caught a trout or whatever fish, I mean, it would work for any fish, I guess. Oh, and lemon. I'd have that all in a Ziploc bag, and then I just take my trout, tin foil, dump the contents of the thing, make a fire on the fire, and we'd sometimes have a can of corn, a can of beans in the bag too, and then you just something quick, simple, easy. I mean, you can get as technical as you want. I mean, I made fish tacos on the back of a Dodge Ram. Like, if you want to get technical, you just put whatever you want in that kit, right? But if you're looking for if you're going on a little bit of a hike, you don't want to be dragging a big kit with you. Just keep these simple ingredients in a Ziploc bag and some tin foil. You can't go wrong if you cook the fish. It's all about how you cook it too. If you cook the fish perfectly with just some butter and some lemon in there, and it's gonna be good regardless.
So,
I agree. A little bit of acid, like seasoning. Those are the important things. And I can remember as a kid, cooking, trout over a fire, and I know that the flavor now that I'm a chef and whatnot, that being able to add those seasoning and those levels of flavor makes all the difference in the world.
Yep.
How long have you been a chef now, Jesse?
I started cooking in the late 90s. So yeah, like 97, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So you've been at it for a day or two then.
Yeah, a little while there.
Yeah. Well, I guess that leads me to my next question. You definitely have the experience now, and like I said, when I talked about our series of fish and chip videos that are still the rest of which are still to come out, you've definitely you set the bar high with the fish and chips from your restaurant. What do people need to do to elevate their homemade fish and chips?
I don't want to give all my tips away from the ale house on how we do it, but one of the big things to keep in mind is keep your what you're frying relative to the size of your frying pot, because whenever you put something in a deep fryer into the oil, you're dropping the temperature. So people have, and like I still go through this with my cooks sometimes. They'll jam a bunch of things in the deep fryer. Or they got a bunch of fries and they'll throw them in there. You want some space. You want that oil circulating around whatever you're frying, and it's better for you to do it in smaller batches and keep that temperature then getting it in there. Because what happens is if you drop that temperature and whatnot, is a lot of the oil ends up going back into your batter or your breading or your product. And you don't want that to happen. You want to sort of like create this like dehydrating effect, because that's literally what deep frying is it's almost like super dehydrating the outside very quickly. And that's, if you cool it down too much, then all of a sudden that fat kind of like seeps into it. So that would be my number one tip on fish and chips at home is, keep that oil hot.
That's actually, I mean, I never thought of it as the dehydrating effect, but when you say it, it's, it is exactly what it is. And it does make sense that if you drop something too big into that and that temperature drops, then you're going to have greasy fish and chips. And, nobody wants greasy fish and chips.
Well, it's, and it's relative to like, if you're, worried about health, the difference between a properly fried product of food compared to one that's been put into cold oil, you're taking in more fat.
So, well, I mean, that's I've been thinking. I still have striper from last weekend, and you talk about eating healthier. I'm going to try something. I'll let you know how it works out. But I'm going to try to air fry some striper and make air fried fish and chips and see how that turns out. Because
I love my air fryer. Love it.
Oh, we don't use ours a lot, but I do when we do. We enjoy it. That's kind of our little, cheat, but not cheat, because we've been trying to eat better. So
yes,
but I guess
I haven't gotten brave enough to try fish. I'm too skeptical. I know how easy it is to mess fish up. So then the thought of just like putting it in an air fryer with me not being able to like watch it.
Yeah.
I'm so scared, but you know what? I got to try it. I got an ample supply of chain pickerel behind me here about 100 feet away. So, I mean, it wouldn't hurt me to waste one.
We're going to try canals.
Okay. I'm going to watch you do it first. I'm going to watch you do it first.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it. Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty cool.
So I guess as much as I hate to, I know we could talk all night and, it's fishing, it's food. Who doesn't want, I'm sure there's someone, but who doesn't want to talk about fishing and who doesn't want to talk about food? But, Jesse, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Where can people find you? I mentioned before that you're on the Food Network Canada. What shows should they be looking for on there?
I don't know what's playing currently. Wall of Chefs. You can find me on Instagram there at Jesse Vergen. You can find me also at stjohnalehouse.ca or sjah.ca. Look me up online. If you go to my Instagram, you can get to all my different pages. And I have the St. John Ale House. Excitingly, we're opening the Smoking Pig May long weekend. So Smoking Pig Barbecue is going to be up and running. And I have Toro Taco and Barred Rock Fried Chicken in Market Square.
Okay, so you're opening the Smoking Pig. So that means that my family's not going to want me to dig the smoker out anymore because they're going to want your food.
Well, you could just like buy mine and throw it in your smoker and kind of haul it out. Be like, hey.
Yeah, that would work. But, that's the quickest smoke you've ever seen in your life. I drove to Quispam and back.
Yeah.
So I got one last question, and it connects directly to you and to your restaurants, the ale house in particular. Fishing, tourism, restaurants, they're intertwined. They really are. People travel to fish, and they're always looking. What really makes St. John and the ale house in particular, special? What makes it special for people looking for a great fishing destination? Why should they come see you if they're looking to go fishing? What's there?
Well, I would say what makes the St. John Ale House special is the team of people that work there. They are definitely they're the blood. They're the hashtag St. John SJH Army. Our staff are our backbone, and they've been working tirelessly throughout this whole pandemic, and have fought off the waves of crushing changes and phases. Red, and I know Matt, you're down there dealing with it right now, there, brother, and I feel for you. But remember, a few weeks ago, you guys were all kind of like going, "Don't let the New Brunswickers in." So you guys will be back on.
We did.
Back on board there, and we'll get you up on the membership. For a fishing destination, St. John's right in the bottom of the province, and we're on the Bay of Fundy. There's just so much, so many fisheries to access. We got the St. John River, Kennebecasis River. You can fish right outside the pulp mill. Then short drives. There's like lakes everywhere. There's rivers. There's brooks. It's an amazing spot.
It really is. And excuse me, in case you folks missed it earlier in the conversation, Jesse mentioned the docks. I don't know when. Any idea when they're putting them in this year, Jesse?
Well, I'm after them to get them in as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that they're going to be in sometime in June. We're going to say June 15th they will be in. I wonder if anybody from the city is watching me right now. Tell everybody out there that that's when they're going to.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that. And I'm sure that once the docs do go in, you'll have it up on your social or the Ale House social.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to put it out there. There's a big push. We want to see pleasure boaters coming in because, we're, I guess maybe down in Halifax, but, you can literally come down the St. John River. You can be out in your boat. You can be, chasing sturgeon, chasing stripers, and then rip down and come right into the Ale House to eat. Just walk right up the gangplank, and you're downtown St. John, and the world's your oyster.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an awesome option. Whether you're, like you say, sturgeon fishing, striper fishing, or just out pleasure boating, the St. John River, it comes to an end at the Bay of Fundy, and the St. John Ale House is right there to give you your last meal before you leave the river, your first one before you go in it.
We're waiting for you.
Well, we hope to see you soon. We hope to see you soon, my friend. Once again, St. John Ale House, Toro Taco, Bard Rock Chicken, and the Smoking Pig.
Sir.
Look them all up on social media, folks. May long weekend for the Smoking Pig. Look up Jesse Vergen at Jesse Vergen on Instagram, and he's got links to all his restaurant social media. Jesse, like I said, we could go on all night. I thank you, my friend, for joining us. Look forward to seeing you soon. And I know we're planning a little excursion for some shad fishing here in the next little bit. If you're interested, I can make sure you're on the list.
Give me a text. I need to get out there. Busy spring.
I'm pretty sure Pete's planning on coming too. So, and now no pressure to my lovely wife, because she's probably listened. Last year, she put on a great little spread of homemade muffins and stuff in the yard for the guys before they went. So now, if she knows you're coming, she might get a little gun shy on that, but I'll see if I can talk her into it.
I love somebody cooking. Love it. I never get asked over for dinner parties or anything like that.
Well, you're welcome here anytime. I can hear them whispering in the background. I'm probably going to get crucified when this is over, but you're welcome here anytime. I just have a feeling that I'll be the one cooking, so hopefully I don't poison you.
Good, and I'll steal some of Stoddard's shad darts.
Sounds good. Anyways, my friend, we have to wrap this up. Thank you for joining us. Check him out at Jesse Vergen on Instagram. Look up the St. John Ale House and all his properties. Jesse, thank you so much. I hope you have a great night.
Tight lines, boys.
You too.
See you there, Jesse. I'm hungry, Donny. Do they do skip the dishes from the ale house there? Will they deliver down or?
I'm sure. Well, I don't want to know what the delivery charge to Halifax would be, but I'm sure it could be arranged. But you never sent any fish tacos up when Pete was on, so we're probably waiting. We're probably waiting on the fish tacos.
Yeah, you're right. I got to sneak across the border. Maybe I can take a boat right across the Bay of Fundy up to St. John. I just need a good boat, though. Let's track down a good boat.
I don't think I'd risk that trip right now, especially now that you've said it publicly.
I'll do it under the cover of darkness. I don't know. Okay. I got to get up there. My God, there's all these great restaurants, all this great fishing. But
it's still early, buddy. It's only May.
That's right. You're right.
So the last couple last week we were kind of splitting the duties. It was kind of half and half. The week before was kind of more in the New Brunswick wheelhouse. Next week we're going to your backyard.
Yes, sir. Coming to Nova Scotia next week on Fish East Live.
Fish East Live next week. The government of Nova Scotia has a great initiative promoting sport fishing across the province called Fish Nova Scotia. So this week we're going to be joined by some very special guests, some representatives who are going to explain to us and talk to us about Fish Nova Scotia and what their plans are for 2021 and what it means to you as recreational anglers, whether you be local or non-residents going down to pay them a visit. So really looking forward to hearing what Sabrina and Andrew joining us.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, really looking forward to hearing what they have to say and seeing what's new for 2021. So I guess it's time to start putting pen to paper and getting the questions ready for them. So Matt, until next week, my friend, thank you once again for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Always a pleasure.
That's Matt Zito. I'm Donald Patterson. Until next week, fish on and fish east.
Hey.
We'll do the things we love again. We'll hang out with friends. We'll put our screens away and be amazed by what's been waiting for us. We'll dance and eat and laugh again. We'll look in our own backyard and find that it is full of wonders. There will be adventures and art. We will stand in the sunshine and we will be free. Where will you go first?